In this video, we'll take a look at ways that you can edit a waypoint after it has already been created. So what we have here is an FA-18E, and just to the south of the target region. We're going to go ahead and set up a little flight plan for it so it can approach the target taking advantage of natural terrain. Now, taking a look at my map real quick, I noticed that there's this tight little valley here that I can probably use and then pop out at the last possible second to engage our targets located on this large plateau. So I'm going to go ahead and press the F3 key to go ahead and order up my movement, and I'm going to create a general path for this particular aircraft to follow along this particular position. Come around this way, and then we'll pop directly over here. Now, keep in mind there's multiple ways that I could use this. I could actually take this aircraft now in order to go down to minimum altitude. But let's say we wanted to create a situation where we wanted to stay at a higher altitude and then dive down to a lower altitude as it gets closer. Perhaps we're going to do some reconnaissance with it and then get out of the way and then pop up and do our strike. We have the ability to edit each waypoint's altitude and throttle setting individually. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say I want to be traveling at medium high altitude by default. Now I'm going to select the first waypoint in my collection. And now I'm going to press the F2 key, which gives us the ability to edit the throttle settings for each individual waypoint. Keep in mind, if I click on somebody else, I will no longer have that ability. If I click on the unit, it's going to give me a unit. If I click on the waypoints, it'll even give me the ability to cycle and actually highlight what waypoint we're going to be using. One of the nice things here is we can actually change the type of waypoint as well. So for example, we want to say, leave ourselves a note. We're going to say, I'll go to low altitude. We can leave ourselves something along those lines. We could do a manual override for speed. We'll say cruise speed. And we're also going to say manual altitude of, let's drop down to a low altitude of 2,000 feet here. Now I can select my next waypoint, and as long as I don't change any of these options, it will remain the same. So in this case, I've dropped to low altitude. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go to this target. I'm actually going to pop up to high altitude and go to afterburner. And now I'm going to go right back down to the ground as low as I possibly can, back down to my cruise. When I get to that point, I'm going to come around this corner. I'm going to go ahead and kick everything back up to military speed. And then when I hit to this point, I'll go right up to afterburner speed and go ahead and do my direct strike. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my doctrine settings, and I'm actually going to change this so that this particular strike is done in such a way that we don't accidentally engage them early, in which case I'm going to make sure ignore plotted course while attacking is set to no. Now what I'm simply going to do is order up an automatic attack on these two SAM sites that I know are at my disposal. Now if I run this mission, the aircraft will now follow each one of these waypoints directly as it travels. In this case, it goes to that initial 25,000 feet that I established just a few moments ago. It approaches the outside of the cannon right here, and then it's going to go ahead and dive down. You can see the aircraft is now driven all the way down to 5,000 feet. It's going to start proceeding up the canyon. It hits its first point. Notice it's maintaining that speed that it had automatically. Keep in mind, at any point, you can override all of this by clicking one of these options on this side. So we're ripping up this canyon, going very, very fast. We approach our next waypoint, which is our pop-up point. The aircraft jumps up to its altitude, deploys all of its weapons quickly, and actually pulls itself away. Now, you're probably wondering why these weapons were launched. The reason why was because they were set up in such a way that they would fire as soon as they entered into range. So our aircraft, now that it is completely run out of ammunition, now ignores its plotted course and returns to base. If we wanted to establish it so this aircraft did not engage with those weapons as fast as it could, we would either have to set the mission up so we stayed in this valley and never entered into range, or we could go into the doctrine settings for that particular aircraft, and we could define it so that the JSOWs would only be fired automatically at a much tighter range. And again, you can see how much power and control you can have over a given mission using the ability to edit waypoints.